The sales on the reserve list are negligible compared to the greater sales in the Magic the Gathering community, so it should come as no surprise to anyone that the mass majority ignore sales on the reserve list and don't know what's happening in that market space. In today's video, we're going to discuss what's happening inside that space because it's never a problem until it is a problem, and by then, it's too late. You don't promote what you don't control. Welcome back, everyone. MTG Moxman here, and thanks again for hanging out with me on the channel today. Hope you guys are having a fantastic day in the world of Magic. And that's right, we're talking about the reserve list. Now, the last time Wizards of the Coast decided to promote the reserve list was the 30th anniversary, where they tried to cash in, got slapped in the face. Somebody pulled out a baseball bat from the Suicide Squad, and they just took off running. Chris Cox hasn't been back to a cocktail party since. And of course, Cynthia Williams has got to learn how to read Wikipedia stuff. The fourth quarter earning calls came in. They didn't do so hot, and we are where we are. This is the world we live in now, where most reserve list sales are ignored. But they're ignored to people's detriment. As the prices continue to fall, there are cards that are very playable on the reserve list, and in some cases, extremely powerful cards. Some of these cards are on our top 10 this week. Some of these sales are starting to reflect the lower prices and cause that attraction. Now, I think what's happening, though, is actually a consolidation of power. People hate the idea of other Magic players gathering up hundreds of copies of actual usable versatile reserve list cards. They figure they should be available to everyone, but that's not the world you live in. Welcome to capitalism. Those who can afford to do so do, and they make you pay the price when you have to come to them to try to get that product. And that's what I think is happening right now. Some of these sales, the continuation of them week after week, is not a normal thing we've been seeing in the last 6 months. And now it's almost a weekly thing where as the prices fall, there's a certain amount of sales happening over and over. And there's a couple of honorable mentions this week I just want to mention to you guys. They're not on the top 10 this week, but they are honorable mentions. Force Field. Unlimited and collector edition, international editions have been selling higher than normal. This is something to think about. Natural Selection. Most people don't even use this card. I am a fan of this card from the early days. That green kind of look at the top three and you can rearrange them or not. It's kind of a fun card. If you ever get a chance to play with one, you will definitely appreciate it. And the artwork is epic, as you can see. So when we think about this and you look at the top 10 this week, ask yourself this question. Do I care about any of these cards, and are they cards I am seeking out at some point, but I'm waiting for the price to fall? Or, I don't know why I'm watching this stuff. Moxman's just here talking about cards I don't care about, but at the same time, I know they have a lot of value. I'm wondering if I should take some, maybe buy one? I don't know. What's the attraction? Either way, guys, there's stuff going on the reserve list, and as people continue to ignore the sales, if things flip, everyone's going to be mad, and there's nothing they can do about it because somebody else has been buying them and never stopped. Let's take a look at the top 10. Let's take a look at your hottest selling cards in Magic on the reserve list this week. Let's get this party started. Coming in at number 10 this week is Mana Web from Weatherlight with 26 sales October 13th to the 20th of 2023. Now, those 26 sales represent a total value of $326 US. The average price for this card is $14.10. The market price is $16.31, €7.54 to get this card into your house. Now, what Mana Web does is quite interesting. In case you've never seen this card before, it is a 3 casting cost generic artifact. Whenever any land target opponent controls is tapped for mana, tap all lands he or she controls that can produce any type of mana that land can produce. Now think about that when you're trying to control somebody's deck or trying to make sure they can't counter things when it comes around to your turn. You're going to draw all the mana out of their mana pool, especially if it's a blue mana or whatever it happens to be. It's just a very unique piece. It's an old school artifact that can do truly devastating things and at a bargain basement price. Now, number 9 this week is Fork. 27 sales this week. Average price tag is $50 here in Canada, $38.43 in the US. The market price is $37.16, €18.41 to get this card into your house. Now, the one I'm showing you today is a revised copy. This card, of course, you should find at least one commander deck if you're playing with red, but if not, I always recommend getting 4 at this price point, just because if you play an old school format, if you work your way up to like old school Magic, you're going to want to have a play set. But even with these 27 sales, it still represents $756 in total sales this week. Now, the number 8 card this week was also on the list last week. That is Hall of Gemstone from Mirage. This card had 30 sales this week and has an average price tag of only $9.59 US. Here in Canada, it's $15. The market price is $8.46, €10.55 to get that card into your house. Now, that 30 sales, that only represents $280 of actual cash value. So what does this card do and why are people buying it? When you look at this card costing 2 green, 1 generic Enchant World, which means it affects everybody at the same time, during each player's upkeep, that player chooses a color until end of turn. Each mana-producing land produces mana of the chosen color instead of its normal mana. Guys, this is very interesting. If I'm going to say, oh, my opponent's only playing blue, well, that land all taps for black, especially if I'm playing black. It can be really crazy how much you can manipulate somebody's deck with such simple cards. That's why cards that are this powerful just don't exist anymore. Imagine that in a Commander game. That thing's crazy. Now, number 7 this week, Didgeridoo. We have a couple things to comment here. This card's from Homelands. The actual sales, or 31 sales this week, represents $310 US in total value. The average price is $10.36 US. The market price, $10.36 US. €10.83 to get this card into your house. About $15 here in Canada for a near mint copy. So when you're looking at Didgeridoo, I want you guys to remember something. Didgeridoo is a single casting cost artifact that says 3. Take a Minotaur from your hand and put it directly into play as though it were just summoned. So when you think of the upcoming set, The Lost Caverns of Ixalan, we have Quintus, the lore master guy, okay? Now, he is a Loxodon, which counts as an elephant. You have things like Elephant Graveyard that regenerate elephants. There are other cards out there that can work with Didgeridoo, and every time you go back to worlds like Ixalan, or you find these little odd Minotaurs in different sets, they can all eventually go together to make a tribal deck, with this kind of card being the staple workaround. People shouldn't be forgetting this card, but they do, and it's one of the first cards that will spike back up if we ever get some crazy Minotaur deck going, or if they ever made a silly mistake of saying like Quintus the lore master, you know, he's gonna be a planeswalker in the new set. So if they made him a planeswalker but said Loxodon or planeswalker Quintus Minotaur or something, that would be crazy, because then you could just summon him. It'd be awesome. I mean, for those who have that Didgeridoo. Great card, very cheap. Now, number 6 this week is Null Rod from Weatherlight again. Now, 35 sales this week, but look at the price tag difference here. The average price is $89.89. It's $110 in Canada. The $89.98, that's the US price. The market price is $78.11, and of course, €56.65 to get this card into your house. If you're buying this on TCG Player, you can find it between $70 to $85 for lightly played. And if you're shopping on TCG Player, don't forget to use the affiliate link found in the description of all of my videos. If you click the link, it takes you to TCG Player for your shopping experience. But the Moxman gets the kind of like credit for the sale. I get a 3.5% kickback here on the channel. It helps me get cards for the 20K party. I appreciate everyone who takes the time to do so. Now look at the dollar amount. $3,465 of total generated value. That is US dollars. That is a lot of money, okay? But this card's been a lot higher than that. This is still considered a bargain basement price. And for what the card does, right? 2 generic. Players cannot play any artifact abilities requiring an activation cost. Think of every artifact out there that has an activation cost. And this thing basically just says, no. But I want to? No. But I'm thinking about? No. But I'm going to destroy? No. It's just no. It is an amazing card. For its price point right now, this thing's insane. I mean, it's okay. You guys can just go ahead and buy a Sheoldred. They're going to reprint it. This one here, never coming back. All right, number 5 this week. I know, here we go again. Winding Canyons from Weatherlight. 41 sales. Total generated value, $779 US. The average price is $19.57 US. The market price is $18 US. €13.26 to get this card into your house. $25 here in Canada. This card basically is amazing. Yes, it only taps for colorless, but it doesn't come into play tapped. You can pay 2 and tap this thing, and then it says until end of turn, you may play creature cards whenever you could play instants. It gives your creatures flash, guys. This thing is creature. This thing's crazy, because when you look at it, it says creature cards. You can use it more than once. When you pay that ability, if you have a large enough mana supply, if you found a way to take extra turns, this can just be a totally damaging, insane card for players. Nobody thinks about it. All right, let's move on. Number 4 is Soldevi Excavations. All right, I almost did a whole video just reminding people what went on with this card. Soldevi Excavations is from Alliances. 49 sales this week in the number 4 position, generated value $686 US. This card is all the way back down to $14.11 is the average. Market price is $12.62 or €11.01. It's 25 bucks here in Canada. But when you look at this card being as high as 40 something dollars, that is people on this channel. If you're new to my channel, this is the card of the channel. If you love hanging out here with the Moxman, you got to get yourself at least one copy. But there's a reason we did this. This was a market control card. We wanted to see what would happen if we controlled a very large position of this card in the thousands. Now what happened was the market could not regenerate this card. It could not find more copies. It took months and months and months for them to kind of reimburse and bring things up and go delving through. Now, if you looked right now on, let's just say, Card Market, Card Kingdom, local stores that I've checked out, there are less than 1,000 copies out there, okay? Less than 1,000 copies. There's supposed to be around 340,000 copies, all the way up to like 380, depending on which kind of Alliance's print runs you accept. Guys, there's nowhere near that. It would show. It'd be relative. You'd see it places. The card would be worthless. That's not what happened. As these cards got bought out, I think it proves the point. So many cards got destroyed and just devastated from garbages and stuff and people's collections going away that there's no way this thing's coming back to the numbers, which also means overall reserve list numbers are probably a lot lower than people realize. That's just my opinion, though. Now let's go ahead. Let's pop down to number 3. Lake of the Dead. 51 sales this week. Generated value $3,825 US. Average price $75.55 US. This card's from Alliances. This thing is disgustingly powerful. The market price is $73.38. €55.32 to get this card into your house. 110 bucks here in Canada. So what are we looking at? When you look at Lake of the Dead and you think of Fast Bond, if you think of Zernorb, Crucible of Worlds, Banefire, Eldrazi Conscription, Ulamog the Ceaseless Hunger, or just Ulamog the Infinite Gyre, or any crazy Eldrazi, Lake of the Dead gets you there. With the combination of cards you can use, even things like Renin 6 to bring lands back, guys, you can do insane things with this card in the right type of deck, the right type of build. I have done these things before. I remember sacking Lakes of the Dead, bringing all the lands back, taking damage and going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, until I could do massive Banefires, until I could take infinite turns, until I could just do, well, basically anything I wanted to. Because Lake of the Dead generating the 4 mana made it that much easier that I loved using the card all the time. Even if you can't get all these combos in play, there are different sequences of combos you can create with this land that just make it so much fun. I love the card. Let's go ahead and take a look at number 2 this week. And then this is Vesuvian Doppelganger. I'm not really surprised. I think people just kind of noticed that how awesome this card is. It's from Revised. Number 2, 54 sales this week, $960 in generated value, okay? When we look at the card, it has an average price of $17.95 US. The market price is $18.95 US, €12.09 to get this card into your house, 25 bucks here in Canada. So what are we looking at with the Vesuvian? Vesuvian Doppelganger can fit with things like Clone. It can fit with everything. Because anything that clones on top of clones means if you have some big bad boy creatures and you have multiple clones that can make copies of it, you have lots of ways of keeping your creatures going. You have ways of copying powerful creatures that are not legendary, although you can copy legendary creatures, but there are so many unique creatures out there that aren't legendary that have unique powers and abilities that copying them can basically be a game-ending event. I love this card. I love the combinations of cards they offer us now. I can see why players are finally taking advantage of it, especially in some fun casual commander decks. Let's go ahead though. Let's take a look at number 1 this week. You're probably not too surprised. It's Fast Bond. You heard me say it. Fast Bond. Revised edition, 61 sales this week, generated value $1,700. Now this card refuses to go away. There's all that speculation about it getting reprinted, which is kind of dying down now, but the sales haven't gone away. So when we're looking at Fast Bond, I want you guys to think about the craziness that this card would bring. But in terms of a commander deck, I know people think, oh, it's a game-ending card, but there's lots of game-ending cards in Commander, especially competitive Commander. I don't think people pay attention enough to what they say sometimes, but Fast Bond fits with things like Crucible World, Zernorb. You've even got some things like the Radiant Fountain, which when it comes into play, you gain 2 life. So you could like sack it to a Zernorb, and then you can recast with the Fast Bond, but you're gaining 3 life every turn. I don't know, it'd be a lot of fun. I love this kind of stuff. And of course, Wrenn and 6, because Wrenn and 6 just says return target land from your graveyard to your hand. That's why it works so well with things like also like Lake of the Dead. Crazy combinations of cards. Crazy stuff out there that people just forget exists. So let's wrap this up here, guys. With the reserve list being ignored the way it is, yes, there's a dedicated group of people that love playing the cards, and some new people find the reserve list sometimes and take advantage of certain cards and start collecting some of it up, but it's few and far between. It's few and far between, and that is to our advantage for those of us who collect the reserve list and want to build smaller positions in cards and buy them while they're cheap. We hate to buy things when they're expensive. We want to buy things when they're affordable and inexpensive, and we're hoping they go lower, but you're kind of like, I don't know if I should wait any longer. No, you probably shouldn't. But a lot of us do anyway, and we watch it go lower and we think we're winning. We're like, oh, it's getting lower. If it just drops $5 more, I'm going to buy one. Ask yourself this, is that $5 worth it if it shoots back up? But that said, I don't think any of these cards are going back up right now. I think all these cards are kind of hanging where they're hanging right now. The people who have them want to hold on to them. The people who don't want them don't care about them. And unless the market turns at some point in the future, which I still think it will, those of us who have bought some of these cards are going to come out on top, okay? Thanks again for hanging out. This is Just My Opinion entertainment channel, but I have so much fun with you guys every day. I can't wait to do it again. Don't forget, bring a friend to Magic. Have an awesome day, and I'll see you guys all tomorrow. A big shout out and thank you to all the fantastic patrons and supporters of this channel. Without that continued support, daily uploaded content's not possible, so thanks again for sticking around and helping out the Moxman. Guys, looking forward to seeing you soon. Have a great day. Welcome back to the Ramble Jamble. Thanks for sticking around, guys. Kind of crazy to think that honorable mention goes to Force Field, but in case you guys haven't noticed, Force Field price keeps falling, and it's a very versatile card inside a Commander deck because as a 3 generic artifact that you can lay out and just says tap 1 and a target unblocked creature only does 1 damage to you no matter how big it is, that's kind of insane. And find that card for $250 US is just crazy, but that's what happens. And buying multiple copies, and you're still spending less than $1,000 when it used to be $1,000 a copy, that's what people are doing out there. Let them ignore the sales. Let them ignore the reserve list. I don't care if this video gets 5,000 views, 2,000 views, or 1,000 views. Those people watching a video like this are reserve list collectors. They're reserve list investors. They're the ones who believe in the reserve list, that there is value there. I'm one of those people just like you are. Anyway, thanks for hanging out. Thanks for being here on the channel. You made it this far. Let's just put down something fun like Force Field in the comments section. All right, guys? Have an awesome day. Looking forward to seeing you tomorrow. Crazy stuff, man. Crazy stuff.